Hey, you guys. Today we are going to do another Ugly Truth series. And today's Ugly Truth is about drugs and alcohol addiction. Okay? My addiction started at 14 years old. And that was the first time I'd ever done meth. And it was the first time I'd ever really been drunk. I started smoking pot at 14 years old. And things just got worse from there. Now, why did I start doing these drugs? Did I come from a beautiful family that loved me and everything was perfect and how dare I? No. My drugs and alcohol started at the age of 14 because of what I experienced at the age of 4 months old and continued until that age and continued even further beyond that. At 4 months old, I was left under the floorboard of my mom's car in her while she was in the bar, actually. And she left straight vinegar in my bottle. And next thing I know, I'm being ripped away from her and I'm being put into foster care. So I was there for 2 years, the only mommy and daddy I ever knew. And at 2 years old, I was ripped away unexpectedly and I was put into foster care with my sister, where we ended up both being adopted at the same time. I was adopted to be a play toy for my sister. So growing up, we had an extremely erratic and abusive mother who you never knew when she was gonna lash out or when she was gonna hit you or when she was gonna beat the shit out of you. It was just like an everyday occurrence. You were always walking on pins and needles around my mother. And my dad, he stuck up for my sister and I one time in our whole lives, one time, and he got the wrath of hell from her. So from that point forward, we didn't even have that protection. So as we get older, it's a lot of beatings, and we had a lot of foster kids who came in and out of the house, and you got two little girls who are already abandoned, okay? And then they had foster care and group home care for their children, or for these children who were also drug babies and had been through sexual exploitation and all kinds of other stuff. So during that time, there was a lot of sexual molestation with myself. And we had no one to talk to. There was no counseling in those days. There was no therapy. We didn't nowadays you have therapists on every freaking corner and you've got it all over, and everybody needs to go to therapy. And in our generation, we're Generation X. We didn't have that, we didn't have everybody telling us our life was toxic and this was bad and that our parents were abusive. Like, no, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Children are to be seen and not heard, and you keep your mouth shut and you don't talk about your problems. You stuff them down and you just keep on trucking. And for me, my experience going through all of that is I always had to be a warrior. One of the first experiences that I can remember as a little girl is seeing this green car driving down the driveway in the dirt, flying through the air behind this car. And all of a sudden this man gets out of the car and picks my sister up and throws us into the backseat of this car. And we don't know who the hell this guy is. We're being kidnapped from who we believe is our mommy and daddy, and we're being ripped away from them before the adoption is finalized to go see these strangers. And so there's this torment that we were experiencing all throughout our lives, and everything just was so intense all the time. There was no stability, and, there was no emotional stability or care or love. There was just a lot of freaking pain and a lot of fear and a lot of weird, crazy stuff, and kids coming in and then randomly disappearing. And we're just like, there was always so much shit going on in our lives and then with mom screaming and dad hiding out in the shop, and there was just so much shit and not enough love, not enough calm, not enough talking, It was a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of abuse. What I learned now is that was abuse, you know? And so at 14 years old, I smoked pot for the very first time. At 11 years old, I was smoking cigarettes, you know? And my dad smoked cigarettes, and I looked up to my daddy, you know? And so I started smoking cigarettes. And then next thing you know, at 14, I'm being offered, you know, marijuana. And I'm like, all right, you know, sure, I'll try it. And man, that felt really good. Next thing you know, I'm kicking back beers and, you know, getting our hands on those, what are those, pina coladas and Mad Dog 44 or Mad Dog 40s or whatever, you know? And then next thing I know, a friend of mine comes over and says, hey, I've got something. And I remember trying methamphetamines for the first time. And I mean, holy shit. It was the scariest thing that I'd ever done, but it was also the most amazing feeling. I was numb. It was as if none of whatever was hurting me could hurt me anymore. Like I felt invincible. But like, man, I like this feeling, you know? I feel like I can fly. So 15 years old, I get pregnant. And I want this baby so bad. And I quit doing drugs. I quit everything. And the pain went away for just a minute. And then my whole pregnancy, it was just tumultuous. It was an ex-husband who was cheating, or at that time he was my boyfriend, and he was cheating on me. And I remember him picking me up and throwing me out of the truck on my ass so he could go around the corner and go sleep with my best friend at the time. And so it was just pain after pain after pain, and abandonment and abuse and domestic violence and everything else. And what do? A few years later, I marry that man. And then we would do drugs, you know, just for the fun, because the sex was good, you know, and we were both numb. And I never realized like I was doing this because I wanted to be a part of something, and I just didn't want to feel anymore. So I quit doing all that for a long time. You know, we got married, we had 2 more kids, and then I left him. And that's when the abuse really, like the abuse was bad, and he was an alcoholic. He was so drunk all the time, and we would get in fights because I would ask him, please, you know, just don't come to bed. Like, please just sleep on the couch if you're going to be drunk. You know, I'm trying to be sober. Like, I'm trying to do this thing, and I don't want to fight and argue with you. So we would have a pact before we'd go to bed that he would not come in there. And then as soon as he got drunk, he was going to do everything in his power that he was going to come to bed regardless. And it was a knockdown, drag out fight. And so I dealt with an alcoholic. For years we were together, 9 to be exact. So I finally left him, and I was doing really well, you know, and then next thing I know, I'm 24 years old, I'm freshly divorced, you know, and, you know, I'd been pregnant since I was 15, and now, like, I have this newfound freedom. And the next thing I know, I get asked to be a bartender, you know, I'm 21 years old, I'm cute as hell, and I get asked to be a bartender, and of course, it's par for the course, right? You know, you're going to drink, and this is the lifestyle, and it's going to be fun. And I thought, yeah, I could do this. You know, it was great, and it was amazing money. And then it took me down this rabbit hole. And then a couple years later, my ex-husband kidnapped my oldest daughter. And that's when the pain really started. As soon as he got married, it was like they were constantly trying to replace me as my girls' mother. And I'm like, fuck, man. The amount of abandonment and abuse and control and everything else, I walked away from you to get away from all of this. And it only got stronger. So next thing I know, one day I take them over, for Easter at their dad's house. And when I go back to pick them up, I'm one less kid. And I'm fucking dying. Like my heart is ripped out of my chest. I can't handle this, the amount of pain that I'm experiencing. And then I really started drinking. And it didn't help. It helped in the moment, but then I'd find myself just crying and crying and crying and crying, and I couldn't stop crying. And then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd feel like shit because I was hungover. And then, of course, being a bartender, all the hard stuff comes in, right? It's too easy to get. You're in that party atmosphere. And at this point, like I'm just in pain. My daughter, my oldest, ran away. She was in the missing persons database. My ex-husband coming after me for the other two, telling him to call CPS on their mother. If you call CPS on her, they'll come and take you away. And they'll put you with me. And I'll buy you a Mustang and we'll go driving around in it. And then we'll go to Disneyland. And it was just constant abuse and CPS up my ass. And, I'm trying to do all the right things. And at that point, I was actually sober, because I was too afraid. Well, I sobered up there for a while. And then things just kept getting worse and worse. And then my dad died. And I had to be hospice for him. And at that time, I was working 4 jobs, trying to keep a roof over mine and my kids' heads. I was going to work and getting paid to be abused, to go home to the landlord that was such an asshole, and basically paying to be abused. And it was like every fucking time I turn around, I kept ending up in these abusive situations, whether it was an abusive parent or an abusive husband or an abusive work environment or an abusive home environment. Everywhere I went, I was constantly running into abuse. And so, like the only thing that numbed it was the alcohol, was the drugs. Now I understood, but to me at that time, I was like, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I'm okay. Oh no, I had a fucking problem. I had a big problem. I didn't know how to be loved. Abuse to me was love. And so for me, I needed to punish myself because that's love, right? That's how everybody who loves me does it. They either are hitting me or they're choking me or they're screaming at me or they're just fucking with me constantly. So what am I doing? I'm beating myself down. I'm drinking. Now I'm doing methamphetamines. I'm not just snorting it, man. I'm smoking it. Never did I slam it. But I was smoking it there. And I used to be able to dabble in it just to party every once in a while. And then it got really bad. And then it got to a point, like after my dad died, I never got the time to grieve. And then as soon as my dad died, the abuse didn't stop. In fact, at my dad's funeral, I was being abused even more. And then my kids were also being abused at my dad's funeral. Like my dad turned over in his grave that day. And the shit that we sustained. And then all of a sudden, I killed dad. No, you're right, I did. You're right, I did. But I did it legally. I was hospice for my dad. I did the ultimate test. And I took my dad's life. But everything I did, I had notes, I administered his medications, and I helped him cross out of this earth. And I had to go right back to work the day after. So no time to grieve from my childhood. No time to grieve from my mother. No time to grieve from my ex-husband. No time to grieve from my dad. Just keep going. Because that's how society is. You're not allowed to have time off. No. We don't have mental health days. You don't get paid for that. Like, you got to get your ass back to work. Again, remember, this is how we were raised. Gen X is you don't fucking talk about it. You suck it up, buttercup. You shut your fucking mouth and you keep on trucking. So it's no wonder that so many people from my generation have had addiction issues, because that's the only way we knew how to cope. And back then, we didn't have all the fentanyl that's sitting in the drugs nowadays. Like, you can't even, there's no room for fuck up. You're taking a gamble every single time today if you're on drugs. Back then, you got more of the pure shit. It wasn't cut with everything else. Next thing I know, I start dating this guy. Oh my God. And he's gaslighting me. He was lying to me. He was cheating on me. He had everybody believing that he wanted me gone. But when he would come home, he was like, I love you and don't leave and, all this stuff. And gaslighting me and gaslighting everyone around him until I blasted him. I actually recorded him doing it and I sent it to all of his followers. I sent it to all of his friends, sent it to his fucking family and was like, here you go. You think this guy is so fucking perfect. But by that time, I had lost my fucking mind. And so I was really in it now. And then my kids run away. And of course, what do? They run right back to daddy. And what does he do? Instead of like saying, hey, I hear you're in a bind. I hear you're having a really tough time right now. Oh no, he used it as ammunition to slam me even harder. What's worse is he's actually has done a bunch of meth and had no problem providing it to me in the past. And so instead of coming back and saying, hey, peace, I see that, you're having a problem with the girls and, is there anything I can help you with? Would you like, for them to come and stay with me so you can get your shit together? Oh no. Instead, I've got CPS up my ass constantly again. I'm being ripped right back into court after I'd already fought for like fucking years upon years upon years upon years upon years of just nonstop him coming after me. And the amount of abuse that I have sustained, even up until today, I am still sustaining abuse from this man that I've been divorced from for 21 years. He would do anything to replace me as a parent to my children. And he's doing a damn good job of it. The difference between me and him is he's still on meth. He's still drunk to this day. And me, who's been sober now for 9 years, thank you very much. Yes, I pat myself on the back. I went through an exorcism. I saw things that nobody, you hear about people seeing those shadow monsters, and you hear about demonics, and you hear about all kinds of shit that people get scared into Jesus. Oh, I had a fucking come to Jesus moment, let me tell you. I lost everything. I fucking hit rock bottom. So when he came at me that last time with my kids, he has them believing that he took them away from me. No. I called the courthouse that morning and I told them, I said, I'm not coming back in. And she says, ma'am, you do realize that if you don't come in, that you will lose custody of your kids. I said, I know. I'm going to choose me. Because if I keep fighting this battle and somebody doesn't jump off that fucking hamster wheel, it's going to keep going the way that it is. Somebody has to make it stop. And right now, I am not in a position anymore to fight. I've proven myself. I have 3 case files like this, and that's not even a fucking exaggeration. When the lady brought me out my case file, she had to bring it out on a roller. From the time it started till the time I said, fuck it, I'm done. I had fought enough. And I feel like I have enough fucking proof that I've done everything in my power. And right now, I'm the one dying. Right now, I'm the one hurting. Right now, if I don't take control of this, it's going to kill me. So when we talk shit about people who have addiction, you need to ask, what's going on within them? What is it that they are masking? So when it comes to my ex-husband, who is still to this day addicted to methamphetamines and alcohol, and his wife is an alcoholic, and whoever else in their lives that they're dealing with that are on their fair share of drugs, I don't look down on them. I feel sorry for them. I would give anything for them to heal. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in right now. Because when we've been through hell and back and actually touched death's door, that's when we come out and become these healers. You know, I had my integrity questioned the other day. I had lies spread about me the other day, and it fucking killed me. And I was just like, wow, you know, those are your feelings. And I thought, you know what? That's just a pattern, and you just want my attention. But that's a mirror on you. And for me, like, you're still dealing with these drug addict people. I've evolved out of that. I took my power back from the drugs and the demonics and the abuse, and still to this day being abused by my own fucking family. Love is not what is being served to me. And I can't continue that cycle. And I'm not going to allow that to drag me back under, because that's what they'd rather have me be, is back on drugs so they have somebody to talk shit about. Like, I'm clean. And I hope for everyone's sake, for my own children's perspective, I hope for them that these people can get their shit together, because I have. Addiction is no joke. It'll grab you by the balls and you think you're the one in control, and you're not. Because you wake up the next morning and you can't wait to get to that next high. You wake up that next day and all day long, all you can think about is getting high. I remember crushing my crack pipe. You know how many times I crushed my crack pipe until I finally crushed it for good? And the fucked up part was, I couldn't go to a fucking rehab. Oh no. If I went to a rehab and said, hey, I'm trying to get help, and I'm not arrested first, and I'm not put in handcuffs or, put in the hospital because I almost died, they ain't gonna help you. You gotta come with a record, because they're going to charge you for having that addiction. Oh, and don't forget, if I have to come out and say, hey, I got a problem, I'm going to have CPS up my fucking ass, and I'm going to have my ex-husband ripping my kids away from me. There's no people who come in and say, hey, man, I see you got a problem. No, we abuse the people who already have a problem. You can't clean mud with mud. And instead of coming in and saying, hey girl, like, I see, like, you're hurting right now. You're hurting. What can I do to help you? Oh no, absolutely not. My own sister called Child Protective Services on me when I was calling her and saying, please help me. Help me. Can you please take these girls in? Can you please help me? And instead of being like, yes, sister, let me help you, she was one of the ones who called Child Protective Services on me. She had the police department come out. Because that's what we do to the people who are begging for help, who are pleading for help, who are screaming for help. We don't help them. We beat them down even more, and we talk more and more shit about them, don't we? And until I went through my experience with addiction, that's why I do this job. Do you know how many people I have helped come off of drugs and alcohol? Do you know how many people I have stopped from cutting? Because I can level with people and say, I've been there. And I'm not a statistic. I'm not someone who snorted my last line and put myself into a fucking grave. No, I saw things that nobody should ever have to see. And I went through experiences no one should ever have to experience. You think the abuse has stopped? No. To this day, I've become someone that my family should be fucking proud of. She's overcome abuse. She's overcome addiction. She's walked away from narcissistic, gaslighting, fucking cheating, lying humans. She's bettered her life. She's become someone that we can be fucking proud of. You think that my family thinks that way? Absolutely not. You know why? Because what's good is bad, and what's bad is good. I remember their dad getting into a car accident recently in the last couple of years, and he did a DUI hit and run. Hit a motorcyclist. I remember my one daughter going, "Oh, my poor dad. He just lost everything that he worked so hard for all these years." But they'll be the first to kick me in the fucking gut. And if I show one sign of fucking weakness, they'll kick me when I'm down. Because why? My ex-husband raised them to be warriors against me. That's why. They would all give anything to have me 6 feet under. To have me back on drugs and drinking. And you know what? No, I don't. I'm actually at a place in my life now where, like I said, I've been clean now for 9 years. And I have a drink every once in a while. And do I still smoke pot? Every once in a while. Yeah. Not as much as I used to in my past. Now my addiction is, well, sugar every once in a while. I don't even really drink coffee that often, you know. But what I want to get at here is like, you know, we see people who have addiction and the first thing we do is we look down upon them. And yeah, it's frustrating, especially when you've tried to help a person out of their addictions. And you just see them fall back in and, you know, they'll be clean for a minute and then they fall back down and they're clean for a minute. And the reason why they do that is because once they come out of all the things that they've been numbing, the pain, the abuse, the trauma, the sexual abuse, everybody has their story. There's a pile this fucking high that they have to now overcome and sift through and fix and make amends and forgive themselves for. All while life is still fucking climbing over the top of them and throwing them out all this everyday shit. So not only are they taking care of this shit, but now they got to take care of the everyday shit that they have just been checked out for this entire time. And because it's so fucking much, they fall right back into addiction. And I was one of them. And now I want to help people through their addictions. I want to help people through their trauma. so that they never have to feel the way that I felt and have to go at it alone. I couldn't go admit myself and say I have a freaking problem. Why? Because if I did, I would be abused even more. Not that I wasn't already being abused, not that I'm not still being abused, but now I have the wherewithal and the strength within myself that I can look at all of that and say, good, that's how you feel about me. That's the way you look at me. I don't even want to change your fucking mind. Because if you can't see what's going on around you, then, well, one day you will. And in the meantime, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing and helping the people that need my fucking help. Addiction isn't a joke, man. Talk as much shit as you want. I have no desire to talk shit about my ex-husband. I know what he went through. I know the pain that he experienced with his parents. I know what he went through. And I know what he's going through now. And if he was so happy, he wouldn't be still addicted. But he's not. But he's also, you have to be willing to let go of what is causing you to want to be numb in the first place. And that's what I had to do. I had to let it all go. I had to let it all fall down. Let the chips fall where they may. There wasn't even enough cobwebs to clean up because there was nothing left. It was just me. Now I'm a blank canvas. And where do I go from here? I have to rebuild. And that's what I've done. I've rebuilt my life, a life that I'm very fucking proud of. And I don't give a fuck who doesn't like it. And I don't care about the people who don't believe. Why do you think people work at drug rehabs? Because they once were on drugs and they know what that feels like. My baby brother went through his drug days. Ended up in prison for fucking a very long time. It was over a decade. And now he got out. He's graduated. He's off parole. He's now a drug and alcohol counselor. And what better person to be that for someone else than somebody who understands it instead of somebody who read a book and took a test and pretends that they know what the fuck they're talking about. It's like these therapists and counselors who had these wonderful little lives. And here, let me give you advice. It's like, you know what? Listen, sweetheart. Until you've actually gone through 1% of what I've been through and what I've experienced, how about this? When you finally do, come back and I'll let you know how I got through it. That's why we become healers. Is because we needed healing and we had no one to turn to. Why? Because everybody talked shit. Well, I have no hard feelings towards anybody who has come at me. I have no hard feelings towards anybody who has attacked me or questioned whether or not I should be in the position that I am. Why? Because I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because I've helped so many people. And when I get the messages on a daily basis thanking me for everything that I've done, I know. So on the days where I'm questioning myself because I have other people trying to implant all these fucked up things in my head, like I said, they would, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. People want to look down on you for the shit that you've done in the past, but they also don't even try to take all of what you're doing into consideration and say, man, she really took this shitty part of her life and she turned it into something so fucking beautiful. I am so proud of her. No. Instead, they question why, what makes you worthy of doing your job? Well, my reviews, pretty spot on. And I'm the best person that can help with that. So if you have any type of addiction issues that you're suffering from and you need help, reach out, schedule a session with me. I would be happy to walk you through how I got through this experience. And the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat. I will never look at addiction the same way again. And I sure and fuck won't be the person who's talking shit about anybody else. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to leave that here. And that right there is the ugly truth. I love you guys all so much. If you are interested in a personal reading, thefootstepstopeace.com. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It does help my channel grow. And we will chat again soon. Take care.